Welcome into the Commanders Report. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. Thank you guys so much for joining me here for a breaking news edition of the show. It has been announced that Jayden Daniels, quarterback for the Washington Commanders, will be officially out with a knee sprain for this Week 3 matchup for the Commanders between them and the Las Vegas Raiders. And Marcus Mariota will be starting in his place. Today we're going to be talking about the effects on the game plan, how this affects the Commanders' offense going up against the Raiders' defense with Mariota in the lineup on Sunday, as well as some other injury updates for the Washington Commanders. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. We actually put out our full extensive preview for Commanders versus Raiders on the channel yesterday. I go over my keys to victory. I go over the Raiders roster. I go over their scheme and what you can expect on Sunday afternoon at Northwest Stadium, even with Marcus Mariota playing. We accounted for that in our preview, so you guys can check that out if you haven't already. But let's get into the news here, guys. We kind of we're starting to think that this was going to be the case. Jayden didn't practice the first 2 days of the week on Wednesday and Thursday. Today was really going to be the day that determined whether or not he was going to play. And even though he did practice in a limited fashion today, according to head coach Dan Quinn, Coach Q said today, quote, "We're not going to do this the fast way. We're going to do this the smart way," unquote. So they're going to be keeping Jayden out this week, but it sounds like it's not super serious. It doesn't sound like it's going to be a multi-week injury. If I'd have to guess right now, I would say JD probably plays versus the Atlanta Falcons in Week 4. So this will be Marcus Mariota's week here to go in there, show what he can do, and he's already shown us what he's capable of doing in the Commanders' offense, guys. Last year, multiple games played. In those games, I mean, the Commanders' offense was just flying. I mean, it was great. Mariota was playing really good football. I think he's an awesome fit for Cliff Kingsbury's offense. And, you know, if Cliff comes in with a good game plan versus this Raiders defense, which frankly is not that great, they're not great on the interior of the D-line. I think that they've got some physicality to their linebackers, but certainly not the best in coverage there. And then speaking of coverage, their secondary is one of, if not the worst in the National Football League. So there should be some opportunities for Marcus Mariota to exploit, get the ball to Terry McLaurin, get the ball in creative ways to Deebo Samuel, get the run game going with Corey Krosky-Merritt. Now, there's a couple of other injuries to the offense that we're going to talk about here in a second that look like this Commanders are going to be missing a couple more offensive pieces. So we'll talk about how that affects the game plan here in a little bit. But just talking about Marcus Mariota, man, we've talked about it all week on the channel. I have a lot of confidence in this guy to be able to come in, win a football game, especially against maybe a struggling team like the Las Vegas Raiders are, and go out there and go win a ball game and get this team to 2-1 and hand it right back over to Jayden, hopefully for Week 4 when this team plays a tough Atlanta Falcons defense in Week 4. So, you know, Marcus came in last year, was really, really productive in the time that he had in this offense. Of course, he finished his 2024 season with that really awesome comeback victory versus the Dallas Cowboys in the season finale last year. Remember, Jayden actually didn't play all that well in the first half, and then they decided, you know what, we're going to save him for the postseason. We're going to put Marcus in there for the second half, and then Marcus led him back, and he led multiple clutch drives in the fourth quarter. Marcus is somebody that is more than capable. I think he's easily a top 5 backup quarterback in the league. You can argue that he's within the at least top 40, if not the top 35 best quarterbacks in the National Football League today. I think that he's going to be able to go out there versus this kind of rough Raiders defense, especially from a talent perspective, and go out there and have a productive day. If he has guys to throw to, if the scheme is good from Cliff Kingsbury, he comes in with a good game plan, I think Marcus is more than capable of executing that game plan on Sunday. Now, moving up forward here with a couple more injury updates, it sounds like Noah Brown and John Bates, wide receiver and tight end respectively, both dealing with groin injuries this week, are not going to be able to play on Sunday either. So you're going to be missing multiple offensive pieces. Not only are you, of course, missing Austin Eckler and Sam Cosmi, but you're now going to be missing Jayden, John, and Noah as well. So this is kind of a banged-up Commanders offense at this point. Now, you still got a lot of your playmakers. You still have Terry McLaurin. You still have Deebo Samuel. You still have Bill Krosky-Merritt. Still got Zach Ertz. But certainly there's some pretty important pieces that are not going to be on the field for the Washington Commanders on Sunday. Talking about Noah and John, Noah Brown, obviously, I think is probably this team's third best receiver. I don't know if I love that, especially because Debo is not much of a separator. Outside of Terry, there's not a whole lot of guys that can create separation on this Commanders team. And since the Commanders didn't bring in another wide receiver this week, or at least not one that's going to, challenge Luke McCaffrey or Jalen Lane from stepping up this week, it's going to be a big week for those two. Luke McCaffrey and Jalen Lane had an opportunity to step in when Noah got hurt last week. Luke had a couple nice catches, but Jalen Lane didn't do much as a receiver. Lane, was a standout in camp and certainly could be used on some deep shots and take the top off the defense, that sort of thing. But this is a great opportunity for one of those guys, or hopefully both of them, to be able to show what they can do here while Noah is out of the lineup. Because let's face it, Noah Brown gets injured a lot. He is definitely an injury-prone kind of player. So to have Luke McCaffrey and Jalen Lane, somebody's got to step up, all right? Because if they don't, teams are just going to be able to double-team Terry McLaurin all day long and play man coverage across the board and, not really be afraid of Debo Samuel or Luke McCaffrey or Jalen Lane or Zach Ertz burning them down the field in one-on-one coverage. So somebody else needs to step up in this receiving game for sure. We'll see if Luke or Jalen is able to step up on Sunday. And then when it comes to John Bates, losing that guy is huge for your run game. Cliff Kingsbury over the last 2 years has run a lot of 12 personnel, which means 2 tight ends. And John Bates has been their run blocking tight end. There's a reason why they gave him that pretty big contract for a blocking tight end this offseason and brought him back. It's because he's a pretty big part of this offense, and he's not going to be on the field. So you're either going to be asking Ben Sinnott or Colson Yankoff to come in and take his spot, but those guys are both pretty significantly smaller than John Bates. I'd probably put Sinnott out there to see what he can do. This is really the first opportunity that he's really had to have an opportunity to maybe even have like a pseudo starting role, quote unquote, in John Bates' spot there. Or Cliff Kingsbury could just go with 11 personnel most of the time there this Sunday and not put 2 tight ends out there and trust that Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt and this offensive line can get the job done without 2 tight ends on the field. It'll be interesting to see what Cliff's answer is to that particular problem, because John Bates, super important piece to this run game in particular when they go to those 12 personnel looks on early downs. So it will definitely be interesting to see how Cliff addresses that problem and how Bill Krosky-Merritt, who is now the team's RB1, according to the team's unofficial depth chart this week, is going to be able to handle the run game and the number one rushing responsibilities versus this Raiders team. But also, I think another big thing here with John Bates being out is that I think he would have been a big part in stopping Max Crosby in pass protection as well. Josh Connolly Jr. has had to go up against an absolute gauntlet, has been absolutely thrown into the fire to start this season, going up against Brian Burns, Abdul Carter, all that rotation there against the Giants week 1. And then week 2, you go up against like Rashawn Gary, Micah Parsons, a whole rotation there in Green Bay on a short week. And then you get Max Crosby, another top 5 level elite edge rusher this week. So having John Bates there to help chip, to help him out with double teams, that sort of stuff would have been really nice. But now you're going to be asking maybe even Zach Ertz to help block, or Ben Sinnott, or you might be even bringing Allegretti over to get a true double team on Max Crosby. That's one of the keys to victory that I talk about in our preview that we put out yesterday, guys, is you've got to be able to stop Max Crosby. I don't care if you got to triple team him and try to scheme things around that, because he's the one guy on this defense, and this Raiders defense, that can absolutely wreck the game. And especially because you don't have Jayden Daniels' legs out there, and Marcus is a mobile guy. He can move around, but he's not the elite level elusive type of runner that Jayden Daniels already is. So with Marcus in there, and with John out, those are 2 kind of components there that Cliff is going to have to take into account there, and it's going to lead to some question marks for the Commanders' offense heading into Sunday. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do against this Raiders team. I'm looking forward to seeing how Marcus Mariota looks after having a really good 2024 season. Is he still just as good? He didn't play in the preseason, dealt with a back injury. It's going to be interesting to see how this Commanders offense looks without Jayden Daniels out there. So hopefully they can bounce back. They can get a little bit of a get-right game at home versus kind of a struggling football team here with a new head coach still trying to figure themselves out. But certainly looking forward to watching this football game and reacting to it with you guys here on the Commanders Report. So make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Greatly appreciate all of your guys' support. Until next time, guys, health to the Commanders.